Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My longtime viewers will remember this thing, the long ongoing Screenhouse project. Well, I finally have acquired some screen hardware cloth material to finish this thing out. The structure's been done for months and months, and I've been looking high and low for used rusty hardware cloth to finish this thing. Just couldn't find any. Well, Nancy and I were out here looking at it the other day, and we realized, hey, if we put rusty stuff for screening on this, it'll just be one big square rusty blob, and it would actually obscure the designs of the panels somewhat. We needed a contrast, so we made the decision. We bought some galvanized hardware cloth, 1/2-inch square mesh. That'll keep the birds out. I didn't really want to buy new because, again, the whole purpose of this project was using surplus scrap and repurposed material. But I just couldn't find that to finish the screening out. So what I did find, though, our local fencing contractor, our local box stores, this stuff was unobtainium, and the local fencing contractor said he can't get it. Don't know anybody else that can get it. It's unobtainium. Well, I discovered by accident a ad on Craigslist. This guy had hundreds of rolls of this stuff. He's a fencing supplier, and he was based in Tucson. He's got an outlet up in Gilbert, Arizona, and then over in Southern California. He says, I got hundreds of rolls of that stuff. And typically you go buy rolls of fencing these days, and it's north of $100 US. I got these for $85 a roll, which made it a lot more affordable. So this is the contrast Nancy and I were talking about. And as you can see, the galvanized 1/2-inch square hardware cloth actually helps these panel designs stand out rather than having rusty stuff back there. So it's gonna work. And I also had an issue with these rolling doors. I added a bracket, oops, sorry, shadow. Added a bracket down there on both doors to keep these from peeking out too far, but then I discovered when you roll these, they hang up on the panels. So I got a couple of chunks of flat bar that will weld to the panel down here and then act as a slide against the bracket and solve that problem. So enough yapping. Let me get some sawhorses and some tools out here. Let's start screening this Screenhouse. The noise you're hearing in the background, we've got a new hangar under construction at our little air park here. You can fit my shop and my buddy Arnie's shop inside that thing. It's quite the Taj Mahal. By the way, my brand new Yes Welder welding helmet is awesome. And it's got nice comfort padding for the headband and lots of adjustments. This can weld mode, cut mode, like if you're using oxyacetylene torch, and grind mode, all in one unit. Yeah, very happy. Thanks to everybody who gave me suggestions for welding helmets on my community page. But the overwhelming consensus from those that responded was Yes Welder. So that's the way I went, and so far I'm happy. Much better. That's gonna work just the way I want it to. By the way, that's the same Benchmark cutting wheel that I featured in a review, and I've been using it for a while now, and it's working great. Still no chipping. It's cutting everything I wanted to cut. I would have gone through 4 or 5 Harbor Freight Warrior wheels by now, but this Benchmark just keeps cutting right along. Well, I was afraid this was going to happen. I know better. This is turning into a Gorilla Glob mess. This hardware cloth is so thin, even with the heat turned down, you blow right through it. And then if you turn it down too far, then the weld no longer sticks to the main structure. So come up with a solution, and the chief design engineer likes it. I just took a washer, held it on there, tack welded the washer to the structure, and that captivated the hardware cloth behind it, nice and solid. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's just an experimental spot. That's kind of Gorilla Glob. I'll grind that off and redo it. But the washer idea is gonna work. Nancy says it won't bother her artistic eye one bit. And as they rust, they'll blend into the rest of the structures. So that's the way we're gonna go. The washer idea is working just fine. And if I do it right, it'll almost look like buttons. It's gonna take quite a few, but they're hardly noticeable. They're gonna blend right in. And the contrast with the, sorry about the crappy camera work. The contrast against the panels is going to look just fine. The ultimate goal here is keep birds out of the garden area. Birds are your friend most everywhere else, but here in the Southwest desert, they're the enemy. They destroy about 75% of Nancy's garden every year, which can really get frustrating. So that's why we're doing this. And so I've got a lot more hardware cloth to cut. I'll just do some highlights here and there as I weld these things in, and then bring you back when it's all done. I bought 12 pounds of 5/16 flat washers from Tractor Supply. That ought to do it. So I've altered my installation method a little bit. I decided to bend up a flange all the way around. It sets inside the framework, supporting the panels a whole lot better. And I'm just using a good old Hamlet offset sheet metal tongs. This stuff is light gauge, it bends right up. But I'm going to have to lay off. I got rain coming. In fact, I'm already feeling sprinkles. The wind is getting wicked, as you can tell. So I'm just going to wait till this weather lets up and then get back on it. What that Roadrunner's up to. Well, I've got the first section on the top rolled out, and I'm using tie wire to hold it down rather than weld washers on. The stinger on my welder isn't quite long enough to get up here. But the tie wire is working fine. We have Niagara grapes planted here in the corner. Red variety, very delicious eating grape. So the idea here is to have the grapes grab the screen and climb up the structure and eventually go across, or at least partially across the top, to provide some partial overstory shade for the rest of the raised beds in here, because our summer UV from the sun can get pretty intense, and so some of the plants, they burn up, so we want to give them a little help. So I made an addition to my clamp that holds my MIG gun here. Welded this chunk of square tubing on here for holding a pair of pliers. Normally my MIG pliers, you know, for cutting wire and cleaning the nozzle tip and all of that. But it's turned out to be really handy, as I need a third hand when I'm up on the ladder and mess around with tie wire. So yeah, the wind's blowing again, but just a little tech tip there. If you got a MIG gun holder out of an old pair of vice grips and a piece of pipe, think about adding a holder for pliers. It's done. Well, in a general sense of the term, I'm married to an artist. She's already gathering decorative elements to add to this. And eventually I'm going to put some string lights in here and plumb in an overhead emitter system for her raised beds. Where our tree starts are right now, there's going to be a couple more of these stock tanks going in here for planters. Now I've got to clean up in here first. But the basic structure and the screening is finished. It's been a long project. Had some setbacks and weather and such, but it's done. The chief design engineer is very happy with it, as am I. This was a challenge. Would have been great if I had flux core welder instead of a MIG, because when you're welding with a MIG outside, every time you get a little breeze, there goes your gas, your shielding gas. So you pause between, you weld between breeze gusts, but hey, it's all good. This is going to do what we wanted it to do. Keep the birds out. I've already been watching the quail in the morning and some of the towhees and other birds bang off the screening as they try to get in to see what's in these raised beds. We've got some green stuff coming up, as you can see. It's springtime. But yeah, really pleased. I want to thank you all for joining us on this odyssey of gardening mixed with scrap and metal fab. Kind of an eclectic mix. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad you tagged along. For those of you that are fairly new to the channel or not familiar with this project, I've got an entire playlist on this, Building a Garden Screen House, or Let's Build a Garden Screen House. There's a bunch of videos in there, how we did it. And 80% of the material in this thing is all scrap, salvage, and surplus. Would have liked it to have been 100%, but hey, can't always get what you want. But the majority of it is the salvage scrap stuff. I think out-of-pocket expenses, that's for the panels, some of the channel I had to buy, of course, our rainwater collection tank in the back, and some other miscellaneous things. We're right at about $1,600 US. Try building this, buying all new material, and you're going to be way north of that price. But hey, it's all good. Well, thanks for watching, joining us on this little odyssey. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one real soon.